wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep forking it out the root. Make country flowers in there, fork it up. Make country produce in there, fork it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who forking up me country. Riding on me donkey, transportation bliss. Me fireside bubbling a goodie. I hear rioting in the gas crisis. Surrounded by wild animals. What a vicious pack. But none of them does launch an attack. None of them poison us like invert and sap. The hunt always on, I could say that much. And true, can switch it off like crime watch. My mission now is to put a stop to whosoever fucking me country up. Some say I'm a name Eric, George, Robbie and Patrick. Some say Capildeo, Paris, Kamla, Basteo. Old man Bedu said this ain't nothing new. They fucking up long before 1962. If Wattley was around, he might have tell we directly who fucking up me country.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition of the Rebuttal. We are usually on Wednesday night from 8 until 10, but we missed last week, and so we are doing a makeup show, and so we have invited you to be a part of the Rebuttal today from 4 until 6. We're hoping that this too can be rebroadcasted. I don't know when, but we're hoping that that would be a possibility. If you're in St. Kitts or in Nevis, I welcome you to the Rebuttal. If you're in St. Kitts and Nevis diaspora, wherever you are in the world, I welcome you as well. And we are always pleased to have you. Now, the joke of the moment is that after the presentation on Friday night by my brother, Duncan Big Lice Wattley, that ain't nobody gonna want to hear me now or ever. And so, quite frankly, I'm really only here doing this show because of promise. Wow, because it seems as if everybody is now following Big Lice, and nobody wants to listen to his brother, Douglas. And so it's a good thing that elections are in a couple of days, and I would take a break, or I'm going to go before you run me. Could you imagine, when I looked last, more than 16,000 persons have viewed the presentation by Big Lice that he did on Friday night. And that is a lot of people in our context. He got upwards of 2,500 people viewing him on Friday night at any given time. And that again must be a record for the season. I mean, I know that some persons have mustered a 1.2 thousand or 1.6 thousand or whatever, but nobody has approached those numbers. And I think that he did a wonderful presentation. He was motivated and he was animated. You see, the funny thing is, a lot of people think that the reason that cattle don't talk is because cattle ain't got tongue. But cattle got tongue, and cattle got a lot more tongue than a lot of people, yet cattle can't talk. And so they were testing Big Lice all along. Somebody only said that Big Lice is going to retire from the public service, which is his right. He has done the qualifying time, right? And he believes that it's time to go. It is his right. But they interpreted that to mean that Big Lice is going to go out and try to get people to vote against Eugene Hamilton. But Big Lice didn't have to retire to do that. When in the last election he was trying to get people to vote for Eugene, he was still working for government. He was working for the Denzel Douglas government, and he made sure that people voted for Eugene. And so why would it be any different now? Why must he retire in order to work against Eugene Hamilton? Eugene Hamilton has done himself harm all by himself. And so they thought that they should say all manner of things about Big Lice. As if Big Lice ain't my brother. As if they didn't know that Big Lice would give his own version or rebut what they have said. You know, you don't have to get no flashlight to look for us, you know. If we're going down fighting. And you always have to remember that there is more than one side to the story. And so Big Lice did his presentation on Friday night, and they bust up the airways, and now that is what most people are talking about. Unfortunately for me, now nobody wants to listen to me. And so the rebuttal has been relegated down to about second place, because now Big Lice has been on the air. I'm sure that you're probably going to hear more from Big Lice, because he may have to rebut the rebuttal. And then he, I'm sure, has made it clear his intention for the next election. Now, tonight we're going to talk a couple of things, but my things are going to be aimed at preparing you for these last couple of days for the upcoming election. I have to get you prepared. And so all the things that I used to talk, I'm not necessarily going to talk them no more. Are going to zero in on getting you prepared. So it might be tedious, it might be boring, but I want you to pay attention still, because I'm going to still share information with you that I'm sure going to be relevant as you get ready to vote. And those of you who are on the fence, or those of you who are undecided, I want you to pay attention, because I want you to understand why it is you should vote and why it is you must vote Labour in these upcoming elections. Now, I have to make a correction, you know. I said something in the last episode of the rebuttal that was incorrect. It was incorrect. And I only now know that it was incorrect because I listened and read what the supervisor of elections said just the other day. I thought, and I'm sure a lot of you thought so too, because the folks that I spoke to, they thought so. And I believe Tim thinks so too. I believe Tim might have outsmarted himself. I thought that for the elections on the 5th of June, right, persons who registered in April and May were going to be included on the voters list to vote in this election. I really thought so. You remember I said that we have this continual voter registration system. What I didn't realize was that the law requires a particular cutoff date. And so as it turns out, if you registered to vote in April or May, you can't vote. You cannot vote according to the law as expressed by the election supervisor. Only people who are on the list up to the end of March 2020, only people who are on the list as at March 31st, 2020 will be allowed to vote in the next election. Well, watch a thing, I didn't realize that. That was an oversight, and I misstated something to that effect last week when I said to you that you got to watch them with cockeye because they might be trying to put people on the list in April and May. And when we were wondering about all these people who we thought were sneaking in the country and that they might be putting them on the list, well, not a thing to all go. So, you know, the list that you were working up until the 31st of March is the list that you're going to use going into the election, with the exception of those with those voters that you have to put back on the list. You know, they had taken off from some people illegally, and so you are going to try to get those people back on the list. You know, they had been objecting to people and they may have contaminated the list up to that point. Well, there is still a window when Labour and their lawyers are going to go to the court and have those names replaced, as well as they may need to have some names removed. So there's a lot of preparation going into the next election. But what is interesting is that if you registered in April and May, you're not going to be able to vote. And so all these people you see flocking into the thing right now, they're not supposed to be on the voter list. So you have to be vigilant. You have to know what your list looked like at the end of March and what it looks like when they give you the final list for voting there. And then you have to move swiftly to get an injunction, if necessary, to remove some of the names that they may have put on the list. But I'm going to tell you something, you know. I don't believe Tim recognized that the people who registered in April and May are not going to be on the list, you know. I believe that he made the same mistake that I made. Because I'm going to tell you something, a lot of people thought that. A lot of people would have overlooked that aspect of the legislation. It's two former politicians tell me that because, or by virtue of the continual registration, people up until the end of May would be allowed to vote. I certainly thought that. I was only calling them to verify. And it turns out that we were wrong. The truth is, if you are not on the list by the end of March, you're not going to vote, right? You're not going to vote. So we have to be vigilant when it comes to our list management. You have to be vigilant when it comes to managing your list. Don't panic. The numbers that you have been working on up to the end of March are likely going to tell you the story of how these elections are going to go. None of them going to sneak in no voters, it seems. We got this. We got this. And I want to tell you all, I want to tell all you this, you know. I want to tell all you this. This morning, I talked to my representative, you know, the one who gonna go into office, I mean, you know, not the papi shot Gene, you know. I mean that I spoke to Dr. Drew this morning because I needed to make sure that we were still looking as good as we were looking last year, and as we were looking the year before, and as we were looking earlier this year. And I want to tell you, we're looking better, you know. Because a lot of people who were on the fence, they're now coming towards Labour and Dr. Drew. A lot of people who voted against Dr. Drew last year now coming back because they recognize that the alternative ain't what appears seed. They recognize that Drew is already a much better candidate than Hamilton. And so they have been determining that they would be back to vote for Dr. Drew. They will be back to vote for Dr. Drew. And you know that I have been doing the election arithmetic with you all the time. I've been doing the election arithmetic with you all the time. And so when I tell you that Dr. Drew will win, take my word for it. My word is not gospel. It's just a little below gospel. Dr. Drew will win in number 8. No amount of Facebook posts gonna change that. No amount of gonna change that. No amount of money that Len spending with the young people them in Keys gonna change that. Why you think that everybody is about a little money for their vote? People recognize that their future is at stake. And so just because you give a little change here and a little change there doesn't mean diddly. People are smarter. They are a lot more mature in their thought processes nowadays. They know they couldn't find you for 5+ years. Well, how come all of a sudden, just because they hear that you gonna vote for you, they want to come look for you with a little money? Right? Tell them if they got money for you, sign a contract with you for you to get that money every month for the next 5 years. And then, and only then, you would vote for them. But not take no one-time money from them. It's illegal for them to pay you, you know. But I'm saying, if they insist on paying you, no one-time money gonna help you. You understand? No one-time money gonna help you. And so I want you all, you know, I really got to ask myself, you know, well, why did Tim call the election when he did? Because it's obvious that he wasn't ready. But now I'm realizing a couple of things. One, I think he misunderstood who would vote. I think he thought like me, and he thought like some other people, that people in April and May would vote. I think that he thought that. And now he knows that he is wrong, and he's going to have a little bit more palpitation because he knows that he's wrong. Right? And the other reasons that I thought he might have called the election when he did, one is that I believe that he thinks that he stands to benefit from having an election in the state of emergency. Now, who does that? Who has an election in the state of emergency? You forced us to wait 5 years and several months for an election, right? And you are still going to call an election at an inopportune time during a state of emergency. A state of emergency that you call. And the opposition asks for a state of emergency. You call the state of emergency. You are now moving to open up the country. Yet, you called a state of emergency under which the elections would be held. But part and parcel of that, of the reason that you did that, is that you wanted to keep overseas voters out. You wanted to keep overseas voters out. Now, I'm going to say something about that, I'm going to say something about that. You wanted to see if you could win an election if people didn't come in. But you failed to understand that you stood a better chance of winning an election if you allowed people to come in. Because you might have stand a fair chance in number 8, because Eugene got a whole bunch of people overseas that he would have liked to come in to vote. But Eugene cannot survive if he can't get that 100+ people that came in the last time in between Cairn and Keys. If you subtract that, and if you subtract the people who cross over, who vote count for 2, right? And if you subtract the people who are fed up and going to stay home because they don't want to vote for you and they don't want to vote for Labour, how you going to win, Eugene? You tell me how you going to win. And so I think it's a whole bunch of miscalculation. Of course, there are people who believe, I being one of them, that you plan to sneak in your own people when Labour ain't watching. You plan to sneak in your own people when Labour ain't watching. And so I tell Labour, watch you with cockeye. Right? Because I cannot imagine that you weren't going to try to bring people in to vote. I cannot imagine that. But you wanted to catch Labour off guard. But Labour is laser focused, Labour is laser focused. Because here the next thing you say. You say, well, if we're going to bring in people, right? If we're going to bring in people, or if Labour going to bring in people, you want them in quarantine. You want them in quarantine in a government facility. Now, you didn't quarantine everybody in the past when the virus was in St. Kitts. You didn't quarantine everybody in a government facility, But you're going to say you want them in a government facility. Now, if government has 140 spaces, right? If government has 140 spaces, guess who will get those spaces? It ain't Labour supporters. It's all Team Unity supporters that you're going to think. And then you're going to say, oh, we run out of space. And so we can't accommodate you. But that is the reason you got courts. And that is the reason I am told that you now don't have to go through your sister. The court don't have to go through your sister to get a case heard. There is now an online portal. And so you bypass she and you go directly to the court. So she can't stop nothing. I must think people chup it. She is useless at this point in time. Whatever tricks you had up your sleeve, you can't get them work. Whatever you planned, you can't get them work. Because people now could access the court directly. And I think that is such an excellent thing to do. And who knows, you may want to do that even after the pandemic has gone, to make sure you don't have anybody trying to manipulate the courts in the manner that your sister seemed to have manipulated it. And so they say if you come in, you got to go into quarantine in a government facility. And some people say, they say you got to pay for half of the accommodation. Well, that no make no sense. That no make no sense. And so we believe that you're trying a trick. And these guys got to watch you. And they have to counteract. And that is why I tell Labour, if we could get in the people, bring in the people. I am told that if persons are in St. Kitts, right, I am told that you will have to be allowed to vote. And I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to take a break now because I want to address that same issue of the overseas voters and the issue of voting during a pandemic. I'm going to talk about that when we come back. So let me take a pause now and then we're going to come back.
Come now, me and the neighbor. Oh yes, we voting for Labour. Alright, me and the neighbor. Bring them, we voting for Labour.
This is 102.5 Kyssfm, the Federation's one true source.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamond and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits 100% flat. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
Tune in to Kyssfm every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for a live broadcasting of Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas as he discusses a host of national topics and issues. Listen live on radio at Kyssfm 102.5 or view live on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's Facebook page. Be sure to call in and let your voice be heard by dialing 869-466-5977 every Tuesday on Kyssfm 102.5. Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
On fashion accessories for really low prices. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Beauty supplies and weave. Genuine fragrances. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. With perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry, and hair accessories. Check silver and cents in the Amri Mall on Keon Street.
The Timothy Harris-led Unity government is setting out to disenfranchise the voters of St. Kitts and Nevis. Make sure you have your voter's ID to vote in this upcoming election. So go to the electoral office on Central Street today and collect your national ID card. Don't delay. Get your national ID card. Also get a backup ID. Make sure your passport, driver's license, or social security card is up to date. Don't be cheated out of a government that you deserve. Get your ID today.
I wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep forking it out the root. Make country flowers in it, fork it up. Make country produce in it, fork it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who forking up me country.
Okay, so welcome back to the rebuttal. And I did say that I wanted to talk a little bit about the elections and overseas voters. I'll give you my take on that. Government has the mandate. In other words, government is responsible for carrying out elections in the country. Government has the responsible for hosting elections, which means government must plan, budget for, fund, and execute the elections in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm going to talk to you about the planning part, especially because government has a responsibility for executing a fair election. This year, it now becomes clear that not only must the elections be fair, that they must also be safe for the voters. And I'm not talking about safe from physical violence, safe from the spread of the COVID-19 is what I'm talking about. The government had time to plan an election that took into account COVID-19. Because bear in mind, COVID-19 has not prevented us from living. It has restricted us in some ways, but it has not prevented us from living. COVID-19 presents a risk, but there are ways to mitigate and control the risk. Government believes that soon it ought to reopen, because if it doesn't reopen, there will be hell to pay with the economy. And so government knows that it has to reopen. And by reopening, I mean reopening the borders, and so that people could come back into the country. You want to get back to near normal, business as usual. Well, here's what I'm telling you. Government by now should have had a plan for how it was going to be reopening. And that plan should have included reopening for the elections. We managed to eliminate COVID-19 from the country. We knew that would happen. You had time. And let's face it, after having waited for 5+ years, Dr. Harris did not have to call an election on the 5th of June. He had all of July that he could have called an election, which means that he could have taken May and June and July to plan and prepare the country for an election in a COVID-free environment. Because when you look at it, and if you want to tell me that you cannot plan for persons to come from overseas into St. Kitts, not necessarily on commercial flights, if you can't plan for people to come to St. Kitts, and if you can't accommodate them so that they don't spread the virus, and if you can't figure out a way for them to vote in a safe manner, then something wrong. You ain't what appears seed as a government. It means that you ain't you're a thing tall about what you're doing. So let's look at that. Because the government could have done a couple of things. The government could have made arrangements for the flights to come in from wherever they're coming in. The government could make arrangements for the passengers to take the universal precautions that we know to be effective as they check into the airport. Let the immigration folks, let the baggage handlers, let everybody involved take the universal precautions to make sure that people can move through the airport safely. You're going to have to do it anyway, so you should have made the plans. And it is possible that you can do that. And it should have been possible for you to do that and allow people to come in and vote. That's the airport. When you come in, right, the transportation of the people who came in, you can safely transport them, whether by taxi or what, to where they're going. Now this brings me to the issue of quarantine. We have quarantined more than 800 people. Which means, if you're quarantined for 14 days, it means that since the time we started to quarantine people, it must have been that government had a lot of space to hold people in government facilities, or some people were allowed to quarantine outside of government facilities. Because if you're quarantined for 14 days, there is no way that government could have put up 800 and something persons over that period. Or maybe if they can, it means that government has more space than we thought. Now you are telling me that if these people come in, they must be in government sponsored or government controlled facilities. I know what you're trying to do there. You're trying to bring in your own people, put them in quarantine in the facilities, and then when Labour supporters come in, you want to tell them they ain't got no space. Or when they ask to come in, you say they ain't got no space, so you can't come in. Well, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. Government, if government decides to quarantine people, it ought to be at government's expense. And if government intends to quarantine people coming in to vote, it still has to be at government's expense. Government has access to a lot of vacant space in St. Kitts where people could be quarantined. And so to tell me that you're going to be quarantined is not necessarily a big issue. Government can plan that. Government could make sure that that happens. Now, the issue of whether or not you can vote when you're in quarantine. There's nothing in the law that says if you are in quarantine that you are going to be prohibited from voting. It doesn't make sense to make people believe that they're going to be quarantined and as such won't be able to vote. It goes back to the planning. Because government can plan at every polling station to have persons who are in quarantine vote. You say, but that extra work. So what? So what? Government is there to do what is necessary to host the election. But it also must do what is necessary to keep the voters safe. So don't tell me about no load of work. I mean, I know that they're lazy, and I know that they haven't done anything for 5 years, but at least, man, if you can't do it, ask for help. But you can't tell me that you can't accommodate persons who are in quarantine to vote. And so, yes, one, you can come through the airport safely. 2, you can be transported to a place where you're going to be quarantined safely. 3, government has the wherewithal to accommodate as many persons who intend to come in to vote safely and free of cost. Now you say, but who can feed them? Well, people have come in and were in quarantine and had their family members bring food for them. That has happened. That has happened, you know. So there's nothing new there. There's nothing difficult there. Because I guarantee every man jack who would come in to vote have a family member. And you want to tell me that I can't drop off food for my family member who is in quarantine and do so safely? Come up with guidelines if you must. But it can happen. And so you have come to the airport safely. You have been transported to your area where you're going to be quarantined safely and free of cost. You're going to get access to meals because people can deliver meals to you in a safe way. 4, you can vote. You will be allowed to vote. And that can be done safely. Doesn't take no load of rocket science to figure out that all you have to do at each booth is to make accommodation for persons who are quarantined to vote. Taking again all universal precautions which have proven to be adequate. Social distancing, decontaminating, etc. Wearing your mask, etc. Alright? So now you're able to vote. Now here's the other thing that surprised me. You said that these individuals who are quarantined would have to be tested, and they would have to be tested on the 14th day. Now there are 2 things about that. Why you want to test them on the 14th day? If they were going to be positive for COVID-19, they would be positive well before 14 days. That's 1. But 2, why you want to test them on the 14th day when in fact very soon after the election, like the next day, and for some the same day, they would be returning to their home country. And so if they are returning back to the United States and they must be quarantined, then they would have to deal with that when they get back to the United States. So why you got to hold them for 14 days? What if I came in on the 4th? Why you going to hold me for 14 days for? When the next day, when I vote, I could either leave that day or the following day. Once I leave, I can leave safely the same way I came in safely, the same way I could be transported back to the airport, ushered through the airport, on a plane back to the United States, back to England, wherever I'm coming from, back to Tortola, whatever. And then when I get there, I must submit to the rules and regulations of the country that I'm entering. And so this notion that you must submit to a test on the 14 days. For what? Why? Is home gone? Why you gonna think? Why you gonna have to test me on the 14th day? And if you feel so strongly about testing, you got $250,000, not $250,000, $500,000 from ECCB for testing. Why not test me when I jump off the plane then? What you want to say? You don't want to spend the money to get tests for the people who coming in to vote because you so against people coming in to vote? It's the law. If you didn't want overseas people to come in to vote, you should have followed through with your attempt to disenfranchise overseas persons. You weren't going to win. And the fact that you weren't going to win, you withdrew the case, the legislation. Well, the law of the land says that if you are living overseas and you're duly registered, you could come home and vote. And so I don't buy your argument. It should have been part of your budget to find tests for every man jack who came into the country to vote. It ain't like you had to go look for the money. You had money. And if I were you, I would have used this as a test to see how ready we are to open up our borders to carry on the business of the country. I would have used this as a test to see how well you are able to perform under the new dispensation caused by COVID-19, in a new setting, in a new situation where it is possible to spread a disease. I would have used that as a testing ground. But you didn't. You didn't. And so I don't buy that. What I believe is obvious is that you wanted to create a situation where your people would come in at last minute and surprise Labour. But you see, Labour now played you, no. Labour now played you tall. And so now you're beginning to think that you should stop everybody. And I got to argue that that's illegal. But that is why you have the state of emergency still. And I am telling you, why? I'm asking you, why did you have elections under a state of emergency? It's purely because you wanted to manipulate the election in your favor. But now you know that if people not come, Eugene can win. If people not come, Marcella gonna win. If people not come, well, he gonna win anyway, because he beat Patches Like a Drum up in number 1. Right? But you well know, if people not come, Sean definitely gonna win. Well, I hear that he gonna lose. You know, them boys say that Kenny down there gonna cause a major upset. You understand? And that is what you wanted. You wanted to try a thing, and it now work. You try a thing, and it now work. Because I don't understand how inept you are that you couldn't organize and host an election with overseas voters. It's the law. Change the law, and then let's start. Up to today, people still want to argue, oh, I don't think overseas voters should come home. It is the law. If it's not the law, change it. Or if you don't want it to be the law, change it. But it is the law. You can't. It's like one time I saw a race between my brother Gums, the one in Tortola, and I was in the race. I came last. I was 14 years old. I came last. But it was between some guys in KR. And my brother won the race. And rather than people say he won the race, you know what they say? Oh, if it had 10 more meters to go, the other guy would have passed him. But the race was only for 100 meters. What the hell are you telling me about 10 more meters? It was only for 100 meters. Incidentally, I got to tell you, the following year at 15, they had the same race and a bus in all of them backside. At 15. Last time any one of them beat me was when I was 14. I just thought I would put that in there. Right? But now it's the same thing you're saying. If the law says that I can vote, then I shall be allowed to vote. If you want to change it, change the law. And then you ain't even got to say it. People who are overseas know they would have to keep the backside overseas. But you can fix it so that you get in your people and them don't get in the people. And that is what you were trying to do. And nobody gonna let you get away with it. Nobody gonna let you get away with it. So this is what I am saying. I might be in the minority too, but I'm saying if your people can come in to vote, let them come in to vote. Because these boys trying a trick. When they think you cannot react to bring in your people because you don't tell them they can't come, right? Guess what? Theirs gonna be coming in because they would have told theirs that they can come in. You see, because in their estimation, they are the government, and the government can do what the government wants to do. And especially under a state of emergency, the government can do what it wants to do. You understand? That is one of the reasons why you see Tim had that election when there is a state of emergency and there wasn't much clamoring for people from people to open up the country. And he recognized that the country has to be opened soon, or else it would be the death knell of the economy, because the economy ain't doing good. And I'm going to tell you about that in a little bit. But right now, I'm going to take a pause and then we're going to talk again.
Come now, me and me neighbor. Oh yes, we voting for Labour. Alright, me and me neighbor. Bring them, we voting for Labour.
This is 102.5 Kyssfm, the Federation's one true source.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamond and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not, in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits 100% flat. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
Tune in to Kyssfm every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for a live broadcasting of Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas as he discusses a host of national topics and issues. Listen live on radio at Kyssfm 102.5 or view live on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's Facebook page. Be sure to call in and let your voice be heard by dialing 869-466-5977 every Tuesday on Kyssfm 102.5. Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
On fashion accessories for really low prices. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Beauty supplies and weave. Genuine fragrances. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. With perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry and hair accessories. Check silver and cents in the Amri Mall on Keon Street.
The Timothy Harris-led Unity government is setting out to disenfranchise the voters of St. Kitts and Nevis. Make sure you have your voter's ID to vote in this upcoming election. So go to the electoral office on Central Street today and collect your national ID card. Don't delay. Get your national ID card. Also get a backup ID. Make sure your passport, driver's license, or social security card is up to date. Don't be cheated out of a government that you deserve. Get your ID today.
I wanna fly to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep fucking it out the root. Make country flowers in it, fuck it up. Make country produce in it, fuck it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who fucking up me country.
Welcome back to the Rebuttal. Douglas Wattley, your host. So, I reiterate what I said earlier, that none of us on air had as wide an audience as did Big Lice on Friday night. And people continue to listen to what he presented on Friday night. You see, there are some people who believe that they can say all manner of lies against you and that you're not going to react, that you're not going to rebut. The problem I have is that I wasn't raised that way. And since Big Lice and I were raised by the same mother, I don't think he's like that either. I figure that if you lie against me, my job is to tell the truth. Problem is, a lot of times people don't want to hear the truth, and a lot of times people don't want to hear certain things about themselves. And I think that if you don't want to hear certain unsavory stuff about yourself, maybe you ought not speak untruths about other people. So on Friday night, Big Lice had his presentation. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is that he supports Dr. Joe and that he intends not to vote for Eugene Hamilton. I think that certainly would mean, since he's going to vote, that he's going to vote for Dr. Joe. But he comes to that place on his own. Because I have never asked Big Lice to vote A or B. He has never asked me to vote A or B. And he has voted differently from me in some years. But that's the way it ought to be. I don't tell you what to think. I try to show you how to think. And so that you can arrive at a decision all on your own. You know, since this election campaign has heated up, I've observed that a number of persons who I call my friends or who we get along have said things on Facebook that are unsavory about me, that suggest that I'm greedy, suggest that I want all for myself and things like that. You know. And then there are those who have a different opinion from me and who are still polite, who we are still friends. One such person is Sonia Fritz, which is from KR. We grew up together. We are not on the same side politically, but she has never one time dissed me. She's never one time disrespected me. She makes her posts, makes her presentations, and if I disagree, I disagree. If I put my post up and she disagrees, she gives her point of view, give her her alternative view, and we're good. It is unfortunate, though, that a lot of people think that because they have a different opinion from me, because we view things differently, and because we are going to vote differently, that it's okay to say things that are not true, but also to say things to maybe attempt to hurt me or something like that. I remember in 1995 when I had just returned home in 94, and then I went to Israel in 95 to take a course on credit unions and cooperative development. And when elections came in 1995, and it was known that I voted for Cedric, I voted for Labour. It was known because I was on Cedric's platform, right? There was a very good friend of mine and friend of the family who actually stopped talking to me because I voted for Labour. And so people take it really seriously. I noticed that individual's daughter has taken a certain acidic approach to me as well. And so for that reason, I've stopped looking at her posts on Facebook, and I'm certainly not going to be posting any alternative views on that. But it's a reality that we have to deal with. Now, after Big Lice made his presentation on Friday night, somebody drew my attention to a post by my friend Lennox Libert. And you know that me and Lennox Libert are friends. Nothing going to change that. All right? He said, I think there is this talk that Big Lice has a $500,000 loan from the development bank. I have heard further that it's at an exorbitant interest rate. And so I after the show, and Big Lice said, look, he's not going to vote for Hamilton, he's going to vote for Joe. Lennox put this up on Facebook. He said, the Big Lice, explain to me about this $500,000. You owe to the development bank $500,000. So did Dr. Joe promise you to write off that amount? Now, what he says there, in and of itself, is not a big issue, right? I was disappointed that he said it, but you see, only your friends could talk about you. Yet, I want you to understand this. Lennox is my friend. You know that I refer to Lennox as my teacher because growing up, he played a role with us young guys in the community, nurturing us, helping us to figure things out, grow into manhood, and in a way, teaching us how to think on certain matters. There is no love lost between me and Lennox because of politics. When I was voting for Cedric in 1995, one of the things that Lennox told me was, hey, pupil, I love you. You know I love you. But if you ever go on a Labour platform, I cannot vote for you. I said, teacher, I understand. I love you too. You understand? Now, the reason that I was disappointed in his post was not what he posted, but is that I don't realize that he saw the implication of his post. You understand? He didn't see what was implied by his post. Now understand this. Big Lice is a businessman. Notwithstanding Big Lice work in government, Big Lice is also a businessman. He has a business. He has a business establishment. He's not renting. He's paying a mortgage on his property. And so it means that Big Lice, as a businessman, is what we call leveraged. It means that he didn't have the money to produce the financing for his business out of pocket. And he doesn't have any partners. And so you expect that he would be leveraged, which means he would have had to borrow money from the bank. All right? So there's nothing new or unusual about that. And a $500,000 loan for a business, right, is nothing. It's nothing. There are people with several $1 million worth of loans from businesses. So that in and of itself is not the issue. And it's not why I thought that Lennox missed when he put that post. Because if you were to take that to the natural ends, if you were to interpret that, Big Lice owns the Green Valley Pub. It's a business and it's a property. Right? Follow me. Lennox is a partner in a business, the Green Valley gas station. I suspect that that business too is leveraged. We don't know the particulars. Now, I have to assume, right? I have to assume that both businesses borrowed money. Now, Big Lice has a brother who is in Nevis, who is a self-made individual. All right? You know, when I heard them say how Big Lice nearly got jail, debtor's jail, and Tim helped him out, the first thing that came to mind was, why would Big Lice ask Tim to help him out of a situation when Big Lice has a brother in Nevis who is capable of bailing out Big Lice and who never thief no money, who has money that he got the old-fashioned way, he earned it, right? So why would Big Lice go to anybody else for bailout? But you see, they don't understand. And I guarantee you that they didn't know that we had an older brother, right? And so when I read these things, I say, man, well, Big Lice really gonna got to answer these people for true, you know? Because they're saying things, they know it's wrong, they're hiding behind pseudonyms, false and fake profiles on Facebook. But I'm saying these people really don't understand what they're talking about. All right? But that same brother has always said to me, don't never use your money for as long as a bank would lend it to you. You understand? And so I have to assume that both businesses are leveraged. The gas station and the Green Valley Pub. Now, if Big Lice owes the bank, right, then he ought to be in a position to repay the bank. If he runs a business, he ought to be savvy enough to run the business so that he could both make a living and at the same time service his debt. But this is what I think if Lennox had a chance to say that again, that he would say it differently or he would not say it at all. Because you say that Big Lice owes the bank, right? And that he has now said he would vote against Eugene Hamilton and for Dr. Drew. And so you ask the question, if Dr. Drew has indicated that he would pay off the debt, the $500,000 debt. Well, why would Dr. Drew want to do that? Or even want to promise that? Dr. Drew has his own affairs to deal with. Dr. Drew don't have money to give away. And certainly he doesn't have $500,000 he wants to give to Big Lice. So why would Dr. Drew do that? Well, of course, there are certain implications here, because now you are out there thinking that if Dr. Drew got that kind of money to pay Big Lice stuff, then Dr. Drew now must have to pay me to vote for him. And if I go and I ask Dr. Drew for money and he said no, I'm going to be upset, because I'm going to be thinking, well, you're going to pay off Big Lice loan and you can't pay me a little change to vote for you. So that was one of the implications, right? But the question is, does it follow though that since Lennox supports Dr. Timothy Harris, this is the implication of what he said. Does it follow that since Lennox supports Dr. Harris, right? Is it that Dr. Harris paid to set him up in business at Tapestry Hill? Because he supports Dr. Harris. He votes for Team Unity. So are we to believe that for that support, Dr. Harris paid to set him up in business at Tapestry Hill? Is it that Dr. Harris has given him money to keep the business afloat? Is it that Dr. Harris has made decisions which are favorable to the business at Cabbage Hill so that the business can stay in operation? No. The Lennox that I knew, who I call teacher, would have picked that up and recognized that when you make a statement like that about Big Lice or two Big Lice, that you have to also, by extension, apply that interpretation to his own situation. I don't know Lennox's situation with respect to Tapestry Hill, and I don't know his true relationship, financial or otherwise, with Dr. Harris. So I can't say. What I know is that I wouldn't say that in public. I wouldn't make that assumption about him in public. And so while I have not spoken to Lennox about this matter, I am certain that after a second look, he would admit that he misspoke about Big Lice. Because you cannot apply that analogy to Big Lice unless you apply it to yourself. That is what made me be disappointed when I read the document. Right? But understand this. Understand this. At the end of the day, in recent weeks, I have not argued politics with any of my friends. I've not talked politics with Lennox. I've not talked politics with Copperhead. I've not talked politics with any of my friends. Because I know that they are of a different view from me. I know I cannot convince them because they have been fully entrenched in that ideology, the PAM ideology, for years. For some of them, it was handed down to them from their family. And rather than create a situation where we become upset with one another. We say things we regret or we wish we hadn't said. I don't engage in political talk at this point in time. There is going to come a time when we will be talking politics, which is after the election. But at this point in time, I don't engage in the political talk because I realize that at this point in time, some of us tend to say things that we otherwise wouldn't say. All right? And so I want to tell you that, notwithstanding, Lennox and me friend, right? Because he knows how that statement looks and that it doesn't look good, and because we are self-regulating human beings, right? I think that if given an opportunity, he would either ask Big Les that in private, or he would restate that particular posting so that it doesn't engender the type of implication that you could have. Because, like I said, if it is so for Big Les, then you ought to think that people would think it is so with you. On that note, I'm gonna take a pause and then we'll come back. We'll come back for more of the rebuttal.
Come now, me and the neighbor. Oh yes, reporting for labor. Alright, me and the neighbor. Bring them, reporting for labor.
This is 102.5 Kyssfm, the Federation's one true source.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamonds and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits 100% flat. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
Tune in to Kyssfm every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for a live broadcasting of Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas as he discusses a host of national topics and issues. Listen live on radio at Kyssfm 102.5 or view live on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's Facebook page. Be sure to call in and let your voice be heard by dialing 869-466-5977 every Tuesday on Kyssfm 102.5. Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
On fashion accessories for really low prices. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Beauty supplies and weave. Genuine fragrances. Check silver and cents. Check silver and cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. With perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry, and hair accessories. Check silver and cents in the Amri Mall on Day on Street.
The Timothy Harris-led Unity government is setting out to disenfranchise the voters of St. Kitts and Nevis. Make sure you have your voter's ID to vote in this upcoming election. So go to the electoral office on Central Street today and collect your national ID card. Don't delay. Get your national ID card. Also get a backup ID. Make sure your passport, driver's license, or social security card is up to date. Don't be cheated out of a government that you deserve. Get your ID today.
I wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep forking it out the root. Make country flowers in there, fork it up. Make country produce in there, fork it up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of them politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who talking up me country.
Welcome back to the Rebuttal. You know, I've been sitting and I've been looking, and I'm thinking that one of the reasons that the Prime Minister called this election in what appears to be an inopportune time is that the government wanted the election before the June payday. If Team Unity wins, you're going to endure some massive cuts. You're going to endure some massive cuts. Why? The government is broke. The government is broke. The money that Dr. Douglas left in the country, that ain't there no more, you know. That ain't there no more. You know, one of the things that I saw the Team Unity government brag about that really didn't make any sense to me is the fact that they paid off the IMF quickly, as if that makes sense. You got the money from the IMF so that you could survive the Great Recession, which was a sensible thing to do, because you needed that money to tide you over until the economy started to grow again. And 2 years or so later, it started to grow in a significant way. And the IMF funds were necessary. Now, I didn't agree with everything that Douglas ever did. Of course, you know that I thought that the land for debt swap was the dumbest thing ever, right? But the IMF fund was not a crazy idea. And why would you want to take up $100 and something million and pay it off? You understand? And you took that $100 and something million and paid it off. And then you come back and you spent $350 million that you didn't budget for. Right? And that didn't come from no surplus. And so it would appear that you already spent nearly $400 plus million out of what Dr. Douglas had left. And then you come and you say, you spent more than $100 million to buy back land from the land for debt swap. Well, who tell you to do that? The land was already yours. You don't have to buy back nothing. Yet you say, so that now, let's say you take $100 million to do that, it's more. Now all of a sudden, you had $576 million. So the money that Dr. Douglas left, you don't spend it up now. And now we are at a stage where the government is losing money. ECCB says that the OECS, with the exception of St. Kitts, have indicated that they are losing about 50% of their revenue. The reason that I said except St. Kitts is because St. Kitts has not reported its losses. It has not said by how much the regular revenue has been cut. But if you follow the trend, then it would be about 50% as well. 50% less money coming into your treasury. What that tells you, that tells you that a significant amount of money is lost every month because you are not taking it in. And when you think about it, salaries every month is about $14 million. The step is about $2.5 million. PAP is about $2 million. Retirement per month is a significant amount of dollars. I don't remember how much it is. The pay for peace is about $1 million a month. Now, you tell me that when you add these up, you're going to get anywhere between $20 and $25 million in wages, salaries, and payoffs. Right? It means that you are now challenged. You are now challenged to make the wage bill. I know I don't want to hear this, because they're not going to tell you that. And they ain't got the kind of brains in this particular government as the last government did. This government, as we know it, they are not thinkers. Denzel had a better group of thinkers than these boys here. And so these boys here are at a loss. They don't know what to do. And that's one of the reasons they've called election now, because they don't know how the payroll is going to look in June. And what I'm going to tell Dr. Douglas right now, you got problems, You got problems when you come in, because these boys here don't mess up the economy, don't mess up the government finances, When you come in, you're going to have your work cut out for you, May I tell you right now, I would not want to be Prime Minister of this country. But you see, the reason why Dr. Douglas is coming in and thinks that he could make it work is that he has the experience. He took us through the Great Recession. But let me tell you something. Timothy says that he has $120 million stimulus package. Yet, to date, he has also said that they only spent $4 million out of the stimulus package. And we know that money didn't come out from the consolidated fund. That money didn't come from government generally. That money came from Social Security. You understand what I'm telling you? And why are they killing Social Security? Why are they trying to kill Social Security? In December, you all don't know. In December, Kyssfm, that is run into the ground by patches, borrowed $81 million from Social Security. You ain't hear nothing about it. They even got the money before the ink was dried on the contract. In other words, they got the money even before the contract was agreed upon. $81 million Kyssfm borrowed from Social Security. Now, why are they interfering with Social Security? Because Social Security has its own problems, you know. Now, mark you. Social Security is not broke. Social Security has a reserve of somewhere like $1.4 billion. But there are some troubling signs. Because the actuarial report says, the last one says, that if things continue the way they are going, that $1.4 billion there in reserve will run out in 2038. That ain't so long from now, you know. You know one of the reasons it's going to run out? It is because by 2023, it is expected that you would have to start take money from the reserve to run Social Security. You understand? You would have to take money from the reserve to cover expenditure because Social Security, its operations would be running at a loss by 2023. And so by then, if you don't do something, your reserve would start to decrease. That $1.4 billion there, for the most part, is invested. And you earn somewhere in the region of $46 million a year on investment income. But if you're going to be lending money to Kyssfm, and if Kyssfm is poorly run, it means that Kyssfm may very well default. And a fella as ignorant as Patches may say, well, a government. And so it means that you're not going to be able to recover money from that investment. I'm telling you, you know, these boys made a mess of this country in 5 short years. They made a mess of this country in 5 short years. And that is why I'm telling you, I know the country broke. But you're only going to find out after the election. You are only going to find out after the election. And I don't personally have confidence in the present leadership of the Social Security, especially at a time when things are so precarious. Because understand this, and you tell me how this could make sense. You know that Social Security is in a precarious position. Yet, you are going to make a decision to pay money out of Social Security, knowing that Social Security is not going to be taking in anywhere near as much money as it's supposed to take in. Social Security takes in maybe around 8+ million a month from about 28,000 plus contributors. You understand? Well, during this point in time, when there's a downturn and so many persons are not working, and so many self-employed people cannot meet their contributions to Social Security. It means that the contributions to Social Security are going to be severely hurt. So instead of $8 million a month, you might only be putting in $5+ million per month. And so whereas Social Security thought that this year it would collect contribution of about $104 million, you have to recognize that it's going to be a lot less than that. And so why are you spending money from Social Security when you claim that you had all this surplus? And when we know that Dr. Douglas left money in the thing, why not make the payments from that? It's because you don't waste that. You ain't got no money. And some people wondering, well, why would he call election if he's not prepared? It's simple as this. Tim don't know. Tim already saw the numbers. Tim already knows that he is going to lose. But here's the thing. He might have put up a fight if he thought that they could win and that he would be the Prime Minister. But he went over to Nevis the other day for two reasons. One, to get Mark to put Vance to run in Nevis 10. And the other one was to get Mark to agree to make him Prime Minister for a second term. And he didn't get either assurances. And Tim is the kind of person that if he can't be Prime Minister, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want to be an ordinary minister. He wants to be Prime Minister. And if he can't get what he wants, he don't mind that everybody else suffer, which means he don't recognize that there's a good chance he gonna lose, and he ain't care, he ain't putting out no effort. And so if they lose, they lose, because he wasn't going to be Prime Minister anyway. I'm going to pause here because when I come back, I want to talk about this Prime Minister thing after the election. So let me pause here and then I'll come back.
Up the voting, alright. Me and my neighbor, voting for Labour. Me and my neighbor, voting for Labour. It's so powerful.
You're listening to 102.5 Kiss FM. Experience the evolution.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamonds and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits 100% flat. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
Tune in to Kyssfm every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for a live broadcasting of Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas as he discusses a host of national topics and issues. Listen live on radio at Kyssfm 102.5 or view live on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's Facebook page. Be sure to call in and let your voice be heard by dialing 869-466-5977 every Tuesday on Kyssfm 102.5. Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
Want fashion accessories for really low prices? Check Silver and Cents. Check Silver and Cents. Beauty supplies and weave, genuine fragrances. Check Silver and Cents. Check Silver and Cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. Great perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry and hair accessories. Check Silver and Cents in the Amri Mall on Payon Street.
The Timothy Harris-led Unity government is setting out to disenfranchise the voters of St. Kitts and Nevis. Make sure you have your voter's ID to vote in this upcoming election. So go to the electoral office on Central Street today and collect your national ID card. Don't delay. Get your national ID card. Also get a backup ID. Make sure your passport, driver's license, or social security card is up to date. Don't be cheated out of a government that you deserve. Get your ID today.
I wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody knows the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep forking it out the root. Make country flowers in the pocket up. Make country produce in the pocket up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of the politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who talking up me country.
Welcome back to the Rebuttal. I'm Douglas Wattley, your host. Guys, let's get back to this issue of the mismanagement of the government finances. And I include Social Security, the port, etc. Now, could somebody tell me why the port needed $81 million in December? The pay, they said, was already paid for. What projects did they have that warrants $81 million in loans for the port? Does it suggest that the port is severely mismanaged? Does it suggest that the port is in dire straits? Does it suggest that somebody need to save that port from patches? Now, you got to look at what is happening, you know. The government seem to be making some decisions which are clearly aimed at hampering the incoming government. They want to hamstring the incoming government. So, for instance, one of the decisions I heard that was made recently at the port is that Jermaine Lake has been added to the membership of the port board, right? And you know that he has been put in as a returning officer in these elections, so that might be some quid pro quo there. And then I understand that all the board members have been recently renewed for 1 year. Now, if election is this year, if election is next month, why are you going to renew board members? When you know that one of the practices is that when a government comes into office, it requires that board members vacate their seats on the board. So why would you do something like that? Then I understand that they are doing certain things down at Social Security. Now, I suspect that they are probably doing these kinds of things at some other institutions. But I understand that they are doing some really crazy stuff, like down at Social Security. It's my understanding that you have board members getting paid something like $20,000 in gratuity, right? That has happened already. $20,000 in gratuity issued down there to board members. For what? I didn't know board members used to get gratuity. I thought they used to just get the stipend. But $20,000 in gratuity, right? Now I understand that they are also renewing the contracts of each board member, right? Stipulating, for instance, that the members will be paid for 2 years if the government change and they are relieved of their duties. Are you hear what I say? It is my understanding that they are having contracts made up, or they have made up contracts for the members of the board down at Social Security, which require that the incoming government would have to pay each board member for 2 years. If once the government comes in, it requires that they vacate their seats on the board. They know they're going to lose, but they ain't going out and leave anything for Labour to manage. The treasury going to be empty. And they're going to put things in place that would cause the government major frustration when they come in. In a pandemic, in a great recession, if not a depression, they're not playing nice. They're not playing nice. And so we find that they are rushing money through to Kyssfm, because I understand that $81 million wasn't all, I understand there's more money that they're pushing through to Kyssfm at the direction of the leadership of Social Security. And you have to ask yourself, why? The incoming government going to have to do some serious forensic work, Some serious forensic work, right? People got to understand that these decisions are decisions made to frustrate the incoming government and decisions made to fill people's pockets and to frustrate, like I said, the incoming government. So that, for me, is quite an interesting set of situation that the Labour government has to be aware of and will have to figure out how to deal with once you get into office. Now I want to go back to a story that I was talking about. Well, no, I didn't talk about it. It's something Big Lice raised, and a lot of people get upset when he said it. They were going along with him, and then when he said he support Mark for Prime Minister, oh no, my Labour people went down bad. But it is a scenario that you have to think about. There are a couple of things that are going to happen. Right? After the election. You have the option that Team Unity could win. And that they would make Tim Prime Minister. Team Unity could win and somebody else could be a Prime Minister. Team Unity could win and Mark could be a Prime Minister. Team Unity could lose, right? And Dr. Douglas would be Prime Minister. Right? Now, there are some people who think that if it were not for Tim, that Team Unity may not have been as poor a government as it has turned out to be. And so you find a lot of people are now blaming Dr. Harris for the imminent loss of Team Unity. But I'm going to tell you this. Mark wants to be Prime Minister. Mark wants badly to win 3 seats in Nevis so that he, if they win, could be Prime Minister. I'm going to tell you why. Nevis too is broke. Nevis ain't in a good place. Nevis is in bad shape. Nevis's revenue, just like St. Kitts and the other OECS country, is cut maybe by 50 to 60%, just like St. Kitts. Right? The only way I see for Nevis to survive under Team Unity is for Mark to become Prime Minister. And Mark believes that. And I'll tell you why. Because Mark, if he is Prime Minister under Team Unity, will become Minister of Finance. And he would also want to be in charge of the SIDF. He would be in charge of the National Bank, Development Bank, Social Security. Right? Mark has consistently said that Nevis has not gotten all the money it was promised from the SIDF. And that may very well be true. And so one of the ways that Mark sees this situation changing is if he becomes Prime Minister. Alright? If he becomes Prime Minister, then he doesn't have to ask anybody to send the SIDF money over to Nevis. He would simply channel the money to Nevis based on the calculation and that suggests what Nevis is owed. Simple as that. You see, Mark has a problem in that in his last in his last budget, he cut $30 million from government expenditure. Now, usually when you have a recession, and certainly if you have a depression, government's expenditure is going to be important to keep the economy afloat. Because already personal consumption is down. And if personal consumption make up about 70% of your economy, and people are not spending because they're either saving money or they don't have jobs, right? Or they're on lockdown, and so people are not spending, then it means that two sets of vital aspects of the economy are doing poorly. Personal expenditure and government expenditure. Now we also know that foreign direct investment is non-existent in Nevis. And we also know that business investments would be down. And so when Mark had cut the $30 million from the government expenditure, he said that he expects that to be made up by the private sector. But the private sector is dead. Private sector can't do it. And remember, you are having more problem in Nevis because Four Seasons had been paying persons for a while. And that is just about ready to stop. In fact, I understand the managers have gotten their letter. They are now laid off. Right? And it means that the workers are going to be laid off. It means that after about 3 months, they're going to be qualifying for, they're going to be terminated and they will have to be receiving severance. Nevis ain't got no money to pay no severance. Right? Nevis is in dire straits. I could tell you right now. Mark was hoping to get $30 million from the SIDF this year. Ask him if he got it. If Mark ain't got it up to this point, he ain't going to get it again. Not under a team unity government. You understand? And so Mark is in dire straits. And Mark recognizes that the only way he could save face in Nevis, because all this time, you know, Nevis owe more than $500 million in debt. And so Mark knows that the only way he could save face in Nevis is if he fight to become Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Think about it. Because if he lets Tim take over, a pure spite. You see them kind of things they put up on Facebook attacking Mark? You think that is just for show? That is orchestrated out of the Harris's home. When they have meetings. In fact, some of them things they are written by Harris's. You understand? So you know that if we make the mistake and put back in team unity, it's pure problems you're going to have in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so you have to vote and vote wisely. You have to vote and vote wisely. Let me take a break and assess where I am, and then we can decide how we are going to close out and when we are going to close out.
Up the voting, alright. Me and my neighbor, voting for Labour, Me and my neighbor, voting for Labour. It's so powerful.
You're listening to 102.5 Kiss FM. Experience the evolution.
I love being in the latest style and dress fine, or should I say classy. That is why I shop at First Class next to the taxi stand at Port Sante for fine gold and silver jewelry in precious, semi-precious and colored stones, diamonds and crystal watches, and the hottest handbags and wallets. And when I want to buy a gift for someone, that's easy too. I just ask them to make me a gift basket, and First Class has the best prices at Port Sante. So no matter what the occasion, come on into First Class and leave happy, knowing you've gotten the best deal for your money. It's First Class at Port Sante, where quality, low prices, and top-notch service are second to none.
Spread the word. New and exclusive every Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's the Gospel Cafe with Carl D. Springate on KYSS FM 102.5. Tune in and connect with the Holy Ghost Connection with live interviews, Christian news, what's hot and what's not in the now. Birthdays and anniversary shout-outs available, Bible Jeopardy, Beyond the Pulpit, and positive entertainment and ministry. Testimonies and the pastor's moment with Spread the Word. So tune in as we drop the latest gospel hits 100% flat. It's the Carl D. Springate Gospel Cafe, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on KYSSFMonline.com and 102.5 FM. And be blessed like that.
Tune in to Kyssfm every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for a live broadcasting of Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas as he discusses a host of national topics and issues. Listen live on radio at Kyssfm 102.5 or view live on the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's Facebook page. Be sure to call in and let your voice be heard by dialing 869-466-5977 every Tuesday on Kyssfm 102.5. Ask the Leader with the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
Want fashion accessories for really low prices? Check Silver and Cents. Check Silver and Cents. Beauty supplies and weave, genuine fragrances. Check Silver and Cents. Check Silver and Cents. Handbags so beautiful, your friends will envy how you look. With perfume to smell just right, you'll feel like you're in paradise. Watches, silver jewelry, and hair accessories. Check Silver and Cents in the Amri Mall on Payon Street.
The Timothy Harris-led Unity government is setting out to disenfranchise the voters of St. Kitts and Nevis. Make sure you have your voter's ID to vote in this upcoming election. So go to the electoral office on Central Street today and collect your national ID card. Don't delay. Get your national ID card. Also get a backup ID. Make sure your passport, driver's license, or social security card is up to date. Don't be cheated out of a government that you deserve. Get your ID today.
I wanna fly high up to the sky. I'm living in the mountains. Everybody know the soil so fertile. If a man sit down naked, the seeds might grow. A delightful getaway from the hustle, bustle and tricks. Oh, what a natural fix if you don't like to mix with the politics. One issue I have to resolve. If I could sort it out, all problems solved. Every time I plant corn and it start to shoot, some idiot keep talking it out the root. Make country flowers in the pocket up. Make country produce in the pocket up. Country start to blossom. I don't know who or where they come from. Me blind neighbor say he saw a man resembling one of them politicians. I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly who talking up me country.
Back to the rebuttal. I am Douglas Wattley, your host, and as you would notice, we have gone over time. But I didn't want to leave until I share this bit of information with you. Now, I've been speaking with the Prime Minister, the ex-Prime Minister, on the weekend, and I also spoke with Dr. Drew. And I had an idea that I wanted to share with them and to get their endorsement of the idea. Here is the idea. Now, there are a couple of different ways you are going to vote. You're going to vote for Team Unity. You're going to vote for Labour. But then, there are some persons who voted for Team Unity in the last election who are now going to vote for Labour, either for the first time or they have voted for Labour before. So it's like me. You're people like me. I voted for Team Unity the last time. Now I'm voting for Labour. I'm voting for Labour not for the first time, but I didn't vote for them in the last election. Now, if you didn't vote for Labour in the last election and you are now voting for Labour this time around, that makes you a different animal. And I know that some of you are hesitant because you think that if you give Labour your vote this time around, that after the election, Labour may not believe that you voted for them and Labour may not look after you. Well, I have a way to make sure that after the election, Labour both knows your name and that you voted for them, and also Labour will know that they need to take care of you just like anybody else. Right? So here's what I volunteered to do. And this has been authorized by the Prime Minister. This has been authorized by Dr. Drew. Right? I am volunteering to be your advocate if you are going to cross over, if you're going to vote for Labour instead of Team Unity. I am volunteering to be your voice, your advocate. My job here on out is to make sure that Dr. Drew and Dr. Douglas and the Labour Party recognize that you changed your vote from Team Unity and voted for the Labour Party, and so that you ought not be ignored. I would advocate for you. I will make sure that they know that you were important in the scheme of things when it came down to making a decision. Or send me a WhatsApp, or call me messenger, or send me a messenger. Right? Leave a message if you must, and I will call you back. All right? But send me WhatsApp, or send me a WhatsApp, or call me messenger, or send me a messenger. Right? Leave a message if you must, and I will call you back. All right? But I WhatsApp or send me a WhatsApp, or call me messenger, or send me a messenger. Right? Leave a message if you must, and I will call you back. All right? But I want WhatsApp or send me a WhatsApp, or call me messenger, or send me a messenger. Right? Leave a message if you must, and I will call you back. All right? But I want you to know, or send me a WhatsApp, or call me messenger, or send me a messenger. Right? Leave a message if you must, and I will call you back. All right? But I want you to know that you are not going to be ignored. I won't have it. I want you to share with me that you intend to vote for Labour, but that you voted for Team Unity in the last election. I'll be your advocate. I'll become what I call a voter advocate, and I will look after your interests. I will, if Dr. Ju Ain take me call, I'm going to stake out in front of his house. I'm going to go in his office like a sick, and when he call me in, I'm going to make sure he listen to what you tell me you want me to tell him. All right? So, bear that in mind. The number is 869-665-4190. Send me a WhatsApp, or call me WhatsApp. Send me a messenger, or call me messenger. All right? Now, on that note, I'm going to call it a day, and we are going to see you either on Wednesday, or I'm thinking that I might just do 1 hour per day until election day. But I'll let you know. Listen out to see how I'm going to proceed from here on in. But it was nice having you today. I enjoyed it as normally. And so I look forward to your continuing audience as we go forward. Remember, and listen to this, remember, you must vote. You either vote for, against, but you must vote. Right? You must vote. And before I leave, let me leave you with this nice little message from my brother, Big Lice. You all take care now, and I'll see you soonest. All right?
Do not ask me who I'm voting for. Ask me who I am not voting for. It's easy to ask me that question. Big Lice, who you not voting for? I'm not voting for Hamilton. I cannot vote for Hamilton. I cannot vote for Eugene Hamilton. But I vote him. Do not let the empty promise have to live another 5 years waiting on a piece of land, waiting on a house, because they're going to pick and choose. And thus, you.
While some others mad, the people they vote for frustrating them bad. They just feel to cost them when they see them pass, or just take a big stone and knock down their ass. But I have a therapy I'm willing to share. Anytime the pressure get too much to bear, I have a new dance, it is the formula. Once you do it, I know you must feel better. So give me a minute or two, let me explain the dance to you. Just a simple demonstration, it is very easy to learn. Put your hand in the air like this, close your finger and make a fist. Let go your tongue, put it in the air. Wave it like you ain't care. Anytime you see them MP, do it for them to see. And if they ask you what that means, tell them the dance you're doing is one time. I want all you to take a chance. Show them the one time dance. One time. Put your thumb up and then balance. Show them the one time dance. If you hardly don't see UMP,
Anytime you're checking me busy, Peter David always flying. Tongue people cannot see him. Gilbert we realize, like he and people dead in nice. Some of them are passing away. They forget to put them up there. Put it up, put up your thumb. Put it up, put up your thumb. If they're treating us like this, one thumb for Qualis. Put it up, put up your thumb. Put it up, put up your thumb. When they're treating us like that, one thumb for Joe Gilbert. Put it up, put up your thumb. Put it up, put up your thumb. If they treat us like lavas, one thumb for the. Anytime they fret you, really get you vexed, make you feel you want to cut out your index. You just have to lead them, do their stupidness. Don't make it a problem, just go and practice. Then give them the one thumb if they wouldn't take it light. Showing everybody they cannot unite. And when you hear they talking about group of four, that is the time that you have to dance some more. They behaving power hungry, like they want leadership quickly. The way they get in on a show, they can't wait for Tilly to go. They're so embarrassing, and they petty quarreling, fretting you to the max. The dance don't help you relax. All in from the media, they cussing one another. This stupidness reminding we of October 1983. One thumb. If they wouldn't pull up their pants, show them the one thumb dance. One thumb. Put your thumb up and them balance. Show them the one thumb dance. If you find the back stealing, only IMF they studying. They made the country in deep shit, so they're trying to fix it, but they make that mistake before. 92, 93 and 4, NMP always dug in and giving them the rubbish to clean. Put it up your thumb. Put it up your thumb. If they wouldn't understand, one thumb for Tillman. Put up your thumb. Put up your thumb. If you want to push it up, one thumb for Nazimbok. Put up your thumb. Put up your thumb. If they wouldn't stop this thing, one thumb for the skin. They could dry the ocean, nobody would know. The public relation is so bloody poor. Wouldn't tell people nothing, wouldn't blow their trumpet, and that is enough to get a man upset. One thumb to give them if you find they lapsing. All kind of NNP they high up in thing, trying their best to make them unpopular. Look what they do with the old people water. Them fellas supposed to be bright, yeah they can see the light. What I am saying in essence, education not common sense. You get in a problem when you see traitors around them, and you still do not know why the hell they don't make them go. Anything what they say, they licking it out right away before they make a decision. If they on Alan Campbell program, one thumb. Time to take them out of their trance. Show them the one thumb dance. One thumb. Put your thumb up and them balance. Show them the one thumb dance. If you find a hole in secret, they would never expose it. What about the call center? They ain't giving no answer. Before the election was talk about corruption. Now the election done, it's like all the corruption gone. Put up your thumb. Put up your thumb. If you won't get up and get one thumb for Dennis Let, put up your thumb. Put up your thumb. If you won't reconsider, one thumb for Peter. Put up your thumb.